Hey everyone, this is dividing polynomials with long division. So before we get started, we kind of have to remember how to do long division in general, which you may have learned and then kind of put into the back recesses of your mind. But essentially, we have to remember, okay, if I want to divide 23 into, and I don't know, let's just say 1,356, how exactly do we do it? Okay. Well, how many times does 23 go into 1309? Okay, so how many times does 23 go into 135? And that is going to be precisely 6. So then we multiply 23 by 6. 6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1. 138. Oh no, look, that's too big, so we have to go back. And this is all, again, kind of something we have to take into account. Okay, 6 is too big. Okay, so let's try 5. 5 times 23, so 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1. And then we subtract, right? 5 minus 5 is 0. 3 minus 1 is 2, and 1 minus 1 goes away. Okay, 23 doesn't go into 20 though, so the 6 drops down. So how many times does 23 go into 206? That's gonna go in 9 times, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. 9 times 3 is 27, put the 2 here, 9 times 2 is 18, there's a 2 here. Oh, 207, just too big, so it's not gonna be 9, it's gonna be 8. Okay, 8 times 3 is 24, 8 times 2 is 16, plus the 2, so 184. 6 minus 4 is 2, 0 minus 8, borrow, 22. So 58 with remainder of 22. We're going to do exactly this same thing, but we're going to do it now with polynomials. So overview of long division done. Now, how do we use that same concept and do it with polynomials? Well, let's set up the polynomial. So x minus 5, we're dividing that into 4x squared minus 17 minus 15. Always numerator divided by denominator. So denominator goes out here in front. Now for polynomials, we only care about the leading term. In other words, x. So how many times does x go into 4x squared? Well, let's break it down. X goes into 4x 4 times. X goes into x squared x times. Now if we notice, 4x times x, 4x squared, perfect, because we want that to cancel out. 4x times negative 5 is going to be negative 20x. Oops, I forgot the 17x up here. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to subtract. So 4x squared minus 4x squared, that's 0, perfect. Negative 17x minus 20x. So this is actually going to become a plus. So that's going to give us positive 3x. And now the negative 15 drops down. And now we do the same thing. Okay, now how many times does x go into 3x? Well, positive 3 times. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. We subtract. Hey, those guys are going to go to 0. So 4x squared minus 17x minus 15 divided by x minus 5 is going to be 4x plus 3 with the remainder of 0 because it's going to go in evenly. So we can just say 4x plus 3. Alright, let's look at another one. So what about y cubed plus 7y plus 12 divided by y plus 3? It's the same setup. We're dividing by y plus 3, so that goes on the outside. Y cubed. Now notice there's no y squared term. So there's no y squared term. So we're just going to kind of fill it in as a placeholder. Plus 7y plus 12. And same thing, we only care about how many times our leading term goes into each of these. So how many times does y go into y cubed? Well, it goes in y squared times. Y squared times y is y cubed. Y squared times 3 is going to be positive 3y squared. And we subtract. y cubed minus y cubed is 0. Perfect. Those guys go out. 0y squared, or just 0 minus 3y squared. That's going to give us a negative 3y squared here. 7y drops down, and it's positive. Okay, the same thing. Y goes into negative 3y squared, negative 3y times, because negative 3 times y is negative 3y, and then y times y would give us the y squared. So negative 3y squared, and then negative 3y times positive 3, that's going to be negative 9y. Okay, subtract. These guys cancel out, which is perfect. Now we have positive 7 minus negative 9. So that's going to turn into a plus. So that's going to be a positive 16y. And then the 12 now is going to drop all the way down. Plus 12. Y goes into 16y 16 times. So 16y. 16 times 3, that's going to be 48. And subtract 16y minus 16y goes away. 12 minus 48, this is going to be negative 36. So how we write that, so it's negative 36, so it's going to be minus 36 over y plus 3. So let me change color. So this is our answer here. So we're not always going to divide evenly. So y cubed plus 7y plus 12 divided by y plus 3 is y squared minus 3y plus 16 minus 36 over y plus 3, because positive 36 was our remainder. Alright, let's look at another one. Okay, now what about this guy? We're missing a couple terms also, right? We're missing an x squared term, and we're also missing an x term. So let's see how this works out. So our divisor, we'll stick with pink. Pink looks good. 4x minus 0 is our divisor. 64x, oops, 64, not 6. Oh, there it goes, okay. Minus 3 goes into 64x cubed. Now there's no x squared terms, and there's no x terms. And then minus 27. So missing terms, just put in zeros as placeholders. So 4x goes into 64x cubed. Well, 4 goes into 64 16 times. X goes into x cubed x squared times. So 16x squared times 4x gives us 64x cubed. 16x squared times negative 3, 16 times negative 3 is negative 48. And then x squared. Alright, 64's x cubed cancel out, which is perfect. 0 minus, remember this is always a minus. 0 minus minus, so this is going to become a plus 48x squared out here. And then the 0x drops down. That's 0x. Alright. 4x goes into 48x squared. That's going to be 12 times, and then x squared, 12x. So 48x squared, perfect. And then 12x times negative 3 is going to be negative 36x. Same thing, subtract. Those guys cancel out. 0 minus minus, that becomes a positive 36. And then the negative 27 drops all the way down. Alright, 4x goes into 36x. That's just a positive 9 times. 9 times 4x is 36x. And positive 9 times negative 3 is indeed negative 27. These guys subtract to be a 0, so there's no remainder here. So our answer is just simply 16x squared plus 12x plus 9. Okay. Alright, let's do another one. And this is going to be our last example for the day. And I don't know, let's use yellow since we're going on a different color scheme. Alright, so we're dividing by n plus 3. So that goes out in front. 2n cubed. There's no n squared, so plus 0n squared. minus 10n plus 28. Okay, n goes into 2n cubed, 2n times n is 2n, and, oops, sorry, 2n squared. N squared times n is n cubed. N squared times positive 3 is positive 3n squared. Subtract. N cubed, 2n cubed minus 2n cubed goes away. 0 minus 3, negative 3. N squared, negative 10n drops down. N goes into negative 3n squared, negative 3n times. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. N times n is n squared. Negative 3n times positive 3, that's going to be plus, sorry, not plus, minus. Positive times negative. Negative times positive minus 9n. Now when we subtract, those guys cancel out. Negative 10 minus minus, so that's actually negative 10 plus 9, which is going to give us negative n. And then positive 28 is going to drop down. Okay, n goes into negative n. Negative 1 times n times negative 1 is negative n. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So it looks like we're going to have a remainder here. Subtract. Those guys cancel out. 28 minus negative 3. So minus minus, this will give us a plus 31. So this would be plus 31 over n plus 3. So our answer here, 2n cubed minus 10n plus 28 divided by n plus 3 is going to give us 2n squared minus 3n minus 1 plus, because our remainder was a positive 31, 31 over n plus 3. Okay, there you guys go. And as always, that's the end of the video. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.